Good evening, America. Welcome to the Thursday edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you, as always, from the nation's capital and the wiredtofishcoffee.com studios. You know this. Wired to Fish Coffee is my favorite coffee. I just had a cup before I came in here. It's also the official coffee of Just the News. And right now, you can go get 10% off everything in their store, including the Just the News tumbler and the great coffees, both the medium blend, which is my favorite, or the dark roast, which a lot of other folks like. All you got to do is go to wired2fishcoffee.com, use the promo code JustNews at checkout. Boom, you get 10% off. All right, we have to lead tonight with a sitting U.S. Senator being put in handcuffs. That's what happened earlier today when Democrat Senator Alex Padilla tried to crash Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's press conference. I want you to watch carefully. Look at the behavior of the senator and ask yourself, if you did this, what would police do to you? Let's watch.
Hands up, hands up. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the secretary because the fact of the matter is a half a dozen violent criminals that you're rotating on your hands off.
How many of our ICE agents have been doxxed for doing their duty?
Hands behind your back. Hands behind your back.
If you don't have my hands, go ahead, put them behind my back.
All right, cool. One hand, lay flat, lay flat.
Other hand, sir. Other hand.
I've been in this town 36 years, Amanda. I've never seen an episode like that. I support everyone's right to free speech, even if I disagree with it. Shouting even and disrupting, you're eventually going to get kicked out. But the second an officer stops you and asks you to put your hands up, if you hit right with your right hand and then your left hand and then you lean your weight forward and you push into them, you're assaulting an officer.
Yep.
That's what Democrats said happened on January 6th. And I said every time when someone laid their hands on a Capitol Police cop, they should have gone to prison. This is not appropriate behavior. It sends the wrong message for everyone. But it's obvious what happened. Right hand strike, left hand strike, full push, driving his body into the officer. It's going to be interesting to see if he faces criminal charges, but it's not what an elected leader should be doing.
No.
Your thoughts?
You know who Cus D'Amato is? Cus D'Amato?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, longtime coach for Mike Tyson,
Yeah.
became almost like a father figure to him. He had a quote one time, actually I suppose he said it a lot to Mike Tyson, make him miss, make him pay. And those law enforcement officers made Alex Padilla miss and they made him pay.
Yeah.
But you know, the behavior of someone who is supposed to be respectful towards law enforcement, someone who is supposed to be respectful in all forms. As a member of Congress, you're supposed to be a role model. And it's unfortunate to see, also though, he is from California, and just the culture that we see in California right now, all up and down the state. Yeah. I think that this probably fits right into that brand.
Many years ago, I worked as a deputy sheriff in Connecticut, and when you go through your training, you learn to look for certain things where someone's looking to instigate, and this was someone who came there looking to instigate a transaction. He wanted that image. I don't think the image is going to serve him well in the public. We'll see. I mean, the American public seemed to be on the side of law enforcement and immigration. Now, while that ugly scene occurred in one part of the Capitol today, in the other part of the Capitol, some big news. For the second time in a month, Congress actually cut spending, Amanda. Rescission package and NPR, PBS defunded, at least by the House. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. So this $9.4 billion rescission package that was proposed by the White House passed out of the House, and as you said, $1.1 billion pulled from NPR and PBS, so they are effectively no more. This is something that I think, especially for Americans who watched that hearing, and they watched the heads of those organizations try to defend some of the very unbecoming content for children. Yeah. I think that the American people quickly became on the side of, we don't need it anymore. There's plenty of content out there from wholesome platforms.
There's
you don't have to monitor.
Yeah,
you don't have to monitor what your kids are watching to make sure there's not some agenda woven in.
Congress isn't putting them out of business. It's simply saying, go do what other media do. Go get private money.
That's right.
Go earn your money, but do it. They'll still be in business, and they'll just have to spend a little less and maybe be a little less woke to attract the private money they need to do this. But it was a big moment. We've got some great guests to talk about that. Anything else today that you were watching that caught your attention?
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Speaking of what's going to be happening this weekend, Christy Walton, who is the heiress to a literal fortune from Walmart, support. She put out an ad in the New York Times. This was funded by her own personal money, but an ad that seemed to be supporting the protest that's going to be taking place this Saturday, which is organized through the hashtag No Kings. You know, obviously talking about President Trump and his ostensible behavior as a monarch. However, she was forced to clarify that this was only in support of those types of peaceful protests and not what we are currently seeing, although I'm pretty sure, John, in the minds of the American people, they're all the same.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And also the behavior will tell us how we look at this on Monday when we look back at it. President Trump had a really fun response. I don't feel much like a king. Yeah, so, he works 18 hours a day, not much king life.
That's right.
So, all right, we were lucky today to spend some time with two members of Congress. We're going to kick the show off with one of them, Congressman Ralph Norman from the great state of South Carolina, a champion of cutting spending. This is a big moment for him. Listen to what we talked about. All right, joining us now from the great state of South Carolina, Congressman Ralph Norman, one of the great champions of reducing spending. And this year, he's been getting it delivered. Congressman, congratulations on the rescission pack. It's good to have you in the show.
It was a big day, John. It was close, but we won. It was a big day.
Yeah, it is. And defunding PBS and NPR, I was here during the end of the Reagan era, and they were talking about doing it then. You actually got it done in the House today.
We did. There was a lot of controversy or a lot of discussion, I'd say, but you know, they've gone woke. Those two ought to have to compete on their own without federal dollars. If they're going to be basically just a woke DEI program, and the advocated things that American people don't, proved in the last election do not want. Yeah. So we got that, and so many other things are waste, fraud, and abuse. We just need to do more of them.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Congressman, this was a relatively outside-the-box approach to cutting spending and saving taxpayers' money. I understand it was a rickety process. There were a few Republican stragglers that you had to get on, but now that you have pushed this one through and you've saved the American people $9.5 billion effectively, is that a crack in the dam that maybe means that more rescission packages can come and come and come and it'll just be smooth sailing?
I don't know whether it'd be smooth sailing for it, Amanda, but all I know is this. Thanks to Elon Musk, we would have never uncovered what we uncovered. Is because he had the bandwidth to bring out what's the tax dollars should never have been spent for, both overseas and then here on things like PBS and other things. But I hope so, because the financial cliff that we're on is real. We've got a math problem in Congress. We spend too much. And what he did was highlight the absurdity of the $9.4 billion, which I can't think of anything that would go down as qualifying for borrowed tax money. So I hope it will, and I hope we can keep them coming and show the American people, since we have the House, the Senate, and the White House, that we mean what we say, and we're true conservatives. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it was a good day for the American public and the taxpayer. Sir, I want to also talk about law and order. You've always been a champion of it. Today we saw a California Democratic Senator, Alex Padilla, go in, try to disrupt a news conference. We all have free speech, all right, I understand that part. But when he starts pushing law enforcement officers, he's laying his hands on federal law enforcement who are giving him an order. I want to just get your thoughts on what he saw, what example he might have set for young people, and whether charges are warranted.
What I saw, John, on the film was that he rushed to the podium. He wasn't invited. He wasn't on the agenda, if you will. And the fact that he started pushing law enforcement officers, he should have been thrown out. And, I don't know why these Democrats think they can just disrupt and get by with it. They've never had consequences like the Trump administration is going to impose. And you're seeing it on the riots that are tearing up buildings, burning cars, and disrupting the business world in California. So for once, they've got a president who is going to have consequences for him. And on the senator getting thrown out, what else were they supposed to do? Just let him rant and rave? No, it's not his show to do that. If he wants to go on a podcast, or if he wants to call a press conference and rant and rave, he can do that. But not here. It wasn't the place, it wasn't the time, and I think they did the right thing.
Sir, you are one of the most effective messengers in Congress. You have such sharp statistics and easy to digest information for people, especially with respect to Medicaid. 7 times more Medicaid expenditures going towards able-bodied single adults than those who are the most vulnerable. How on earth do Democrats have a leg to stand on when they are countering Republicans' message on Medicare?
You know, their only message is, and we did the right thing with Medicaid, illegals should not get a paycheck from the government. Healthy Americans who just choose not to go to work should not get a paycheck from the federal government. And we had to fight for that. You know, we, in the budget, 3 of us held the budget up to debate that out, along with so many other things. And Medicaid, if you look at the math on that, since 2019 to 2023, it's risen over 58%. It's on slated to be $1 trillion expense for America, which we can't afford because you combine the healthy Americans that shouldn't be getting a check and then the illegals that shouldn't be getting a check. You know, we've got to have some sanity to where our tax dollars are going. Now, I get the Democrats are going to try to use this as leverage to broadcast on the mainstream media that we're cutting Medicaid and Medicare. We're not. On Medicaid, if the 2 parties I mentioned, illegals and Americans who just choose not to work, don't deserve a check. I don't call that cutting. I call that cutting out waste, fraud, and abuse. In the same way with the subsidies, why should car manufacturers manufacturing electric battery-operated cars get a subsidy to the tune of $7,500? They shouldn't. They should compete like every other car company in this country. So, you know, I just praise Donald Trump for the courage to do this, and I praise Elon Musk on the spending side to give us the rescissions that we now have that we would have never had he not come on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Congressman, I wanted to ask a little bit. We've been documenting on the show, we've had some big stories in the last few days on COVID and some of the things that China knew and did that hasn't been reported to the American public until recently. We've had the espionage. We had the pathogens snuck into the country. You supported a very important amendment into the Clarity Act to make sure that we start to rein in some of these Chinese technologies that spy on Americans. Tell us about it and why it's so important to the people watching tonight.
Well, first of all, as far as the coronavirus, we all remember that it supposedly came from a bat that miraculously went into America. We're now finding, thanks to you, John, and your investigative work, that Chinese neuroscientists, were trying to get a patent on a vaccine when they didn't know the intent, they didn't know the ramifications of the vaccine. That was in 2020.
Yeah.
And you know, now they're casting light on it. People suspected something was wrong anyway. And to do it that early, how and why? And Darren LaHood's office and his position with HHS and Dr. Kaplik, I think, are raising the questions that this virus was man-made in a factory, and why we're not severing ties at every level, namely TikTok, which is, we can never have the reciprocal agreement to go into to China and advertise and do what TikTok does. But no, it just shows you how our enemies, our main number one enemy is China. And it's after the fact, look at the money that it costs this country, look at the deaths, and look at the fact that it's caused a great pain to the Americans and still causing pain now. But it's being uncovered, and hopefully we will learn from this and take actions and not let this happen again. I'm worried about the food that
yes.
I think 2 Chinese nationalists were caught trying to put some type of virus that will cause the crops to die. We've got to look on them as an adversary that they are.
Yeah. A boyfriend and girlfriend, how romantic. They're trying to poison the American people's crops. Sir, before we let you go, I want to ask you, we talked about law and order, and there's a video that has gone viral of Brevard County, Florida's sheriff basically saying, if you try any shenanigans, you're going to go to jail. If you try to assault a police officer or hurt a law enforcement officer, you will go to the morgue. Is this the type of messaging that can hopefully quell some of these protests that are set to take place Saturday before they even start?
You know, Amanda, yes. And the fact you just cannot burn a building down or break windows or burn cars and not have consequences. But when you try to maim a police officer who are trying to keep peace, they're going to take action. This isn't Joe Biden they're dealing with, where all they get is tough words and no action. This president will send the necessary people in, and the sheriff that you mentioned will take the necessary action. I can tell you this, in York County, South Carolina, we got a sheriff who will do the same thing. He will not put up with it. And he'll maintain law and order, and those who think otherwise will be put in jail and will suffer the consequences. So he's exactly right.
Congressman, it's such a great honor to have you on the show on such a momentous day. 2 consecutive bills passing Congress with cuts in it, the BBB and now this one. Congratulations, because I know you've been working on this for a very long time. Good to have you on.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much. All right, coming up, folks, sanctuary state governors testified in front of Congress today. Did they make a good case or not? I think you're going to get a good answer from our next guest, Congressman Eric Burlison of Missouri, right after these messages. Hey, folks, you might be wondering, when's the right time to start adding collagen to my diet? How about today? Collagen production starts to dwindle in your 20s, and by the time you hit your 50s like me, it's decreased, and it contributes to wrinkles, sagging skin, and joint discomfort. Now, Native Path Collagen can help. It's packed with only type 1 and 3 collagen fibers, the ones your body needs most for healthy joints, for healthy skin, bones, hair, nails, and also, believe it or not, your gut. Plus, it's third-party tested for purity and with no fillers, no additives, and no artificial junk. That's important to me. 2 scoops a day of Native Path delivers 18 grams of protein. Mix it into your coffee, your tea, your soup, or any drink. It's completely flavorless and easy to use. Right now, you can get a special bundle deal at the fraction of the retail price. Plus, you're going to get free shipping. Available at getnativepath.com/justnews. That's getnativepath.com/justnews. With over 4 million jars sold, thousands of 5-star reviews, and a 365-day money-back guarantee, this is your moment to take control of aging before symptoms get worse. So go to getnativepath.com/justnews right now. Supplies are limited and demand is surging. That's getnativepath.com/justnews.
Welcome back to Just the News, No Noise. Sanctuary State Governors Kathy Hochul of New York, J.B. Pritzker of Illinois, and Tim Walz of Minnesota were testifying up on Capitol Hill today before the House Oversight Committee, trying to defend their policies, and it did not turn out very well for them, especially considering the American public have started to favor President Trump's immigration policies considerably more than the Democrats' position. So joining us now to talk about all of what went down, Congressman from Missouri, Eric Burlison. Congressman, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be on.
First, congratulations, $9.5 billion worth of funding pulled back to the American people, essentially, that rescissions package, and I think it was $1.1 billion coming from NPR and PBS. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was a big win. Whenever the vote was happening, we were losing the vote, and I think leadership was able to flip a couple of Republicans to vote for it. But I mean, my thought was, if we can't do this, why are we even coming up here, right? Because this is the most pathetic, absolutely pathetic, inexcusable expenses, taxpayer expenses, all that crazy stuff, woke stuff through USAID, and then, NPR and PBS funding basically these leftist-leaning, news outlets that really compete with folks like you all. And it's just, if we couldn't do that, what are we doing? So I'm glad we squeaked it by, but I'm glad that we passed it.
Yeah, it's a historic moment. The towns are changing, there's no doubt. There's this extraordinary set of exchanges today during this hearing with the sanctuary state governors, and there's a moment where I know you feel strong about this. You don't think the term sanctuary governor should be in our lexicon, should it?
Yeah, no, these governors refuse to admit that they have sanctuary policies. Look, when you're providing Medicaid to illegal immigrants, when you issue executive orders that benefit illegal immigrants, whenever you provide low-income housing, to them, you name the book, they're baiting them into the country, and then they're blaming us and the federal government for not stopping them. Mm-hmm. And these governors are just so obtuse as to what they're doing. And that's what that hearing was about today, what was remarkable is Governor Walz has the audacity to not work with ICE whenever ICE issues a detainer when there's a criminal in custody. And so they release them into the community. And then when ICE goes into the community to get these individuals, then he calls them Gestapo, which is an absolute insult to, I mean, he's a history teacher. He should know history a little bit better than that. You know, it's an absolute insult to the Jewish American community, to actually just Jews around the world, and to compare the Holocaust with the ICE officers enforcing the federal law for people that are not even supposed to be here. It was absurd.
Yeah.
Congressman, I think America's most infamous sanctuary city, Los Angeles, its mayor is a little tied up right now in her own city trying to keep things under control. But President Trump said, you know, the last 2 nights have been actually pretty quiet, thank goodness for the National Guard. Is that the way going forward? Was this by a test by these radical groups to see just how far they could get? And I guess they found out.
Yeah, and I think today, Anna Polina Luna did a really good job of tying or connecting these radical groups with funding that's coming from a Chinese billionaire who's a member of the Chinese Communist Party. So that was one of the more explosive things that came out of today's hearing. We all knew that these protests and protesters are often paid, or at least the organizations that are ginning them up are funded by like George Soros, but in this case, it's the Chinese Communist Party that's actually trying to create all these protests.
It's amazing. Sir, we all, I know, support free speech, but I'd like to get your reaction to what Senator Alex Padilla did today, going in, and then when law enforcement tried to stop him, literally pushing and striking law enforcement to continue driving towards Secretary Noem. We're all for free speech, but I guess putting your hands on law enforcement takes it to a different level, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he probably knew what he was doing. I think he was looking for a spectacle. Look, he bum rushed the stage in an aggressive tone, and those officers are there to protect Kristi Noem. I think that, you know, it's unfortunate that it happened, but at the end of the day, I think he probably wanted it to happen.
Should he be charged, you think?
I'll have to go back and look at the footage. I've only seen it from other people's cell phones, but I'll withhold my judgment until I see all the facts.
Reasonable thing to do, no doubt.
Yeah. Well, and I think the unfortunate thing is that when you have these rioters, a lot of them young people who are looking at Capitol Hill and saying, well, that guy's a member of Congress, he's a U.S. senator, and they see these people behaving this way, Maxine Waters trying to bust into an ICE facility, and they see them acting that way, it's not really a surprise that they are, you know, maneuvering in the same disrespectful ways towards law enforcement.
Yeah, they are losing their party. I mean, and look, they've lost a lot of the working class voters who are just fed up with being, you know, living in communities that are unsafe and seeing the news and seeing illegal immigrants that are raping young girls in this country. I think people are fed up with it. And then, but the Democrats, you know, we've known for quite some time that they are doing this. They're seeding these communities with illegal immigrants so that they can boost the census. And I've heard that if all the illegals left some of these states, we're going to see a lot of congressional seats flip to the red.
Yeah, no doubt. Sir, the Freedom Caucus has fought for a very long time to get a serious discussion and serious action going in Washington, D.C. on cutting spending. The big, beautiful bill cuts out about $180 billion a year. You cut out $9 billion more today, including something that Republicans have talked about doing for decades, defunding PBS and NPR. You have a lot more targets, a lot more rescissions ahead. This is a starting point, not an end point for the cutting of spending, right?
100%. You know, and I think that we've demonstrated that we can get the rust off the gears here and start to make some cuts. Now, this was, in my opinion, it wasn't enough, but at least it's something. At least it's a start. And it's my hope that the administration, well, first this needs to pass the Senate, and then it's my hope that the administration sends us some more rescissions to make. And so hopefully this is a start of something beautiful.
Congressman, we are heading into the dog days of summer. People are looking to travel if they have a little bit of financial flexibility. Scott Besson, I think, has been a great messenger on the fact that inflation has gone down. The jobs numbers have been higher than expected. Do you think the American people are feeling that, though?
I do a little bit. It's still so expensive to go out to eat anymore, and hopefully those prices start to come down. The good thing is gasoline prices, which especially during the summer, people drive and do a lot of road trips, and the fact that gasoline is at such low rates is good for people's pocketbook.
Yeah, people are definitely feeling it. You can see it. You can see it at the store lines. Sir, what else is ahead? The Oversight Committee's been doing some sensational work, whether it's Act Blue, all the sanctuary cities. What else is on the oversight agenda that you're working on? Because you're often doing some of the most fun stuff in all of Congress.
Yeah. Well, in Marjorie's committee, we're going to be tackling NGOs a little bit more and some of the money that was flowing through those organizations. And so that'll be interesting, trying to identify, leftist donors that were seeding money and then money was being put into these programs. So we're going to continue that investigation. But yeah, every day is an interesting day in oversight. It never gets boring.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Congressman, some might say that Republicans had some decent wins in November, little things like winning the White House and keeping the House and flipping the Senate. But last night, something happened that, it's way more important. Republicans won the congressional baseball game. You were on the team. Now, I remember a few years ago, there were some shenanigans by Democrats. I believe that one of them showed the universal sign of disapproval using one of her fingers. Did anything like that go down last night?
I didn't see any of that. It was good. It was good, clean fun, and the August Pfluger had the most amazing catch that last night.
That
For
was
me,
impressive. It really was
my
impressive.
first time playing, and I didn't play my first couple of years because I just wanted to figure out how to be a good congressman before I start doing some extracurricular stuff like this. But it's really we raised a lot of money for charity, and we filled the stadium. And really, it's just a great way to get to know. Because look, the House is a team sport. You can't act alone. The more people that you know and can have a relationship with, and that's for me. That was the number one reason why I wanted to play.
Yeah. Great game. Always good to keep it clean. So I'm glad that happened, and I'm glad that you guys had a victorious night. Congressman Eric Burlison from the great state of Missouri. Thank you so much, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, up next, why are we spotting Palestine flags and keffiyehs in the anti-ICE protests going on around the country? You know why, but we're going to talk about it next.
Hey, America, the dollar reset that currency experts have been warning about for years just shifted into high gear, and the evidence is unmistakable. Central banks are hoarding gold at the fastest pace since records began. This isn't typical market noise. Why? When nations reach unsustainable debt levels and face chronic trade deficits, major currency devaluations usually follow. Gold isn't becoming expensive, even though it's at all-time highs. Why? It's the dollar that's losing value at an alarming rate. Meanwhile, central banks have bought over 1,000 tons of gold annually for 3 straight years because they see what's coming. This goes beyond inflation. It could mark the early stages of a full-blown dollar collapse. And if that happens, Americans could divide into 2 groups, those who prepared and those who wish they had. That's why American Alternative Assets created a free dollar reset survival guide to show Americans like you how to protect your retirement savings from currency collapse. Inside, you'll discover proven wealth strategies and potentially receive up to $10,000 in free silver just to jumpstart your position. So do me a favor, call 855-GOLD-340 or visit johnlikesgold.com right now. That's 855-465-3340 or simply go to johnlikesgold.com. Position yourself with the smart money before the reset arrives. Welcome back, America. We've been looking at a lot of the video footage and photos of these protests that started in LA, now in Chicago, New York, other places. You see a lot of different causes of the far left. You see communists, socialists, obviously anti-ICE protesters, and you're seeing a growing number of people who are part of the Free Palestine movement, also joining in these riots and protests. Joining us now, the Executive Vice President of the Coalition for Jewish Values, Rabbi Menken. Rabbi, good to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you so much for having me back.
All right. It seems like this is a mismatch. Why would pro-Palestinian protesters be aligned with people who are trying to keep illegal migrants and criminal illegal migrants in our country? But they've joined forces, haven't they?
You know, it's an intersectionality of the anarchists. It's all the people who favor violence and destroying America gathering using whatever pretense they can. I mean, you know this from the group calling itself Gays for Gaza or Queers for Palestine. There are a few more ideas more suicidal than that, because the treatment of those identified as homosexual in Gaza, let's just say they don't live long. It's very sad. And, you know, for these people to line up and say, oh, no, we support Arabs being slaughtered for being gay in the name of gay rights, that tells you these anarchists who are pushing for dangerous criminals to stay in America in the name of free Palestine, of allowing the jihadis to take over the Middle East.
Yeah, just crazy.
Rabbi, it's been pretty incredible to watch this transpire, but Israel has a lot of support from the White House, also some support from Capitol Hill, especially from the Republican side, and specifically the Republican speaker, because he called this movement a violent movement.
That is right, and quite right. And one of the sad things to watch going on is how few Jewish organizations are stepping forward to articulate that he's absolutely right. I mean, this is a genocidal movement because anti-Semitism is always genocidal in the end. And you look at Hezbollah and Hamas and the Iranians, and what they all share in common is the belief that all Jews, and I don't just mean in Israel, have to die. And that is, you know, very sadly, a lot of the people protesting in the streets of LA and elsewhere, they have no idea what Free Palestine means. But the bottom line is Israel's the only free country in the Middle East. The only thing that it needs to be free of, which all its neighbors are already free of, is Jews.
Rabbi, since the last time we had you on and we talked about the ugly rhetoric and the hateful protests, that anti-Semitism turned into violence in several really serious places outside the Jewish Museum here in D.C., then out in Boulder, Colorado. It seems like there has been an escalation in what these anti-Semites are willing to do to get attention or to gain a victory in their party of hatred. Tell us where we are and what concerns you, what solutions you see that might be working.
What concerns me the most is the ridiculous, I would call it almost obscene belief that this is a human rights movement, that this is a human rights cause. The fact that all three perpetrators of the arson attack on Governor Shapiro's mansion in Pennsylvania, the torching of the people in Boulder, Colorado, the shooting of the people leaving the Jewish Museum. By the way, people have the misimpression that they were known to be Israel Embassy employees. No such thing. They were perceived to be Jews leaving a Jewish museum, and that's why they were killed. All three perpetrators were yelling Free Palestine as they tried to murder American Jews. So the idea that it's a peaceful movement, the idea that it's not anti-Semitic, this is absolute stupidity. Free Palestine is very dangerous, and it's incredibly dangerous to America because history has shown there are few things more dangerous to the continuity of a civilization than anti-Semitism run amok. Because it never stops with the Jews. It always continues with the killing of others. Anybody who doesn't agree with them is going to be in danger. And this has to be stopped before that happens.
Sir, before we let you go, I know you speak to rabbis across this country and synagogue leaders as we are bracing for these protests that are taking place on Saturday and probably beyond. Are you hearing that they are on high alert?
I think the Jewish community is constantly on high alert ever since, you know, the truth is before October 7th, 2023, but afterwards, and it's just been accelerating. It's just been increasing. My kids have gone to military encampments for years. This has to be improved.
Yeah, it does. Rabbi, always an honor to have you on. You are such a voice of great clarity. Thank you for joining us today on such a busy news day.
Try to be. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we enjoy you very much. Thank you, sir. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, time for our weekly news health update. We got a good one. We'll be right back with it right after these messages.
We are honoring all the dads out there this Father's Day with a special called A Father's Legacy. Would you like to see your father honored on the special? Well, send us a photo and your name along with your dad's, and we will post it on our website right alongside our Father's Day special on June 15th.
Join us for A Father's Legacy, airing 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern this Sunday on Real America's Voice.
Welcome back, America. Time for our weekly Just the News Health Update, brought to us by our great friends at Native Path. Joining us now, the co-founder and chief culture officer, I love that title, at Native Path, Dr. Chad Walding. Doctor, good to have you back on.
Hey, John, good to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited. This month, we're going to take a deep dive into what are processed foods, why are they become so a matter of big topic, what are the health concerns. Let's just start with what has gone on in the last couple of months since the MAHA movement started, the Make America Healthy Again movement. Robert F. Kennedy really clearly focusing on getting processed foods out of our diet and more natural foods in. That sounds just like getting on the path, but tell us a little bit about what RFK has been working on.
Well, one of the things that really caught my attention is a comment he said about how people don't understand that processed foods are poison. And I think that's really tapping into something about our awareness and our connection between the food that we eat and our health, right? And this is something I've spoken before about how we have a food industry, knows nothing about health, a health industry that knows nothing about food. But to me, what he's speaking about there is talking about our awareness and how we become desensitized to the environments that we're in. And a good example of that, I've always used this example, like imagine you walk into a room with really strong perfume. And when you walk in that room, you can smell it. It's so strong. Like, wow, like, does anybody else smell this really strong toxic perfume that I'm inhaling right now? And you start sneezing, you get red in your face and all these reactions that are happening. And you notice the people that are in the room that have been there a while, they're like, what are you talking about? We don't even know what kind of smell you're talking about, because if we're in an environment for a long time, we become desensitized to it and we stop noticing it, right? And I bring that up because we have been living in a world where we were born into the proverbial toxic perfume room with processed and refined foods, with sugars, with artificial dyes, with toxic seed oils, and it's been impacting our health. And since we're in that room, we become desensitized to it. We have no idea how bad it's impacting us, right? And we continue to get messages to, eat this processed food and take this pill to treat your symptom. But what we want to do, and what RFK is doing, the MAHA movement, is kind of getting people out of that world of processed and refined food, so we can really feel what fresh air, what whole food feels like, right? And he's made some huge, huge moves with this, and we're already seeing changes within food industry companies. Some of these companies are already changing the oils they cook with. They're taking out dyes. They're taking out added sugars. We're seeing changes in grocery markets with apps and people becoming more aware. So I'm really appreciating the positive changes that are happening. And I think the more this, because it's a process, the more it happens, the more people will become self-aware and more empowered to take control of their health.
Yeah, it's so important. In advance of this segment, I reached out to some folks at HHS just to kind of get a sense of how things are going, and they're excited about the changes in the marketplace that are voluntarily happening already. But one of the persons said to me, and I think it's very similar to what you just said, we need to educate the American people that we traded convenience in our eating for our health, and we got to get people to go back and say, hey, that's not a good trade long-term for us. Starting off, what do you, as a medical expert, what is processed food? If people don't know that, I think we generally know what it is, but how is it scientifically defined?
I define it as food that's been refined, it's been processed, it's lost its nutritional value. It tends to have a high amount of toxicity in the body. And in the food, it actually usually comes with sugar, toxic fats, artificial dyes, and it's so far removed from the food that is similar to our great-great-grandparents, right? So I would say it's the opposite of whole, real food. It's far removed from that. And it's, in my opinion, very responsible for many of our health challenges.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. What are some of the symptoms of people who just rely too much on processed food? I know weight gain is clearly one of them, but there are other things that are happening to our body. Give us some of the things that you see that are red flags that maybe you're eating a little bit too much processed food.
Yeah, weight gain is a big one. High blood pressure, blood sugar issues, inflammation, pain in the joints. It can very much be a chemical reaction. The way I look at it is processed and refined foods consumed chronically over and over. It's going to lead to what I call the triage of bad health, right? That's hyperinsulinemia or insulin resistance. That's a blood sugar issue. It's poor gut symptoms. So damaging the gut, which can lead to all kinds of inflammation in the body and arthritis. And in general, it's inflammation, right? It's consuming these foods that have sugar, have seed oils. They're going to inflame the body, and all kinds of symptoms from metabolic issues can be felt with that. Whether it's weight gain, high blood pressure, high blood sugar, all of that is a symptom of a metabolic issue coming from refined and processed food. So it's really important that we know that and we get to the cause of what's happening with these issues with our food, rather than fall into the trap to just think that it's your genetics and there's nothing you can do about it, right? It has everything to do with what we put in our body.
Yeah, no, it really does. The Yuka app is becoming more and more popular, particularly since the Make America Healthy movement really got launched. This is pretty cool. You're in a grocery store. It kind of gives you a guide to what is processed, what isn't processed, right?
Yeah, it's going to show you more information about the food. It's going to show you the nutrient breakdown of the food. It's going to tell you the ingredients, the nutritional value. It rates the food's overall health quality. It highlights things like the amount of sugar and fat and potential harmful additives that can be in there. And in some cases, it could suggest healthier food. But I love this because it empowers the customer, it empowers the people. But the other great thing it does is it's going to start incentivizing food companies to produce healthier food over time when more people start to see what's going on in there and start making choices. It's, in my opinion, one of the benefits of a capitalistic society and the markets that we have is what we're offered. It's based on demand. So if we demand healthy food, they're going to start producing healthier food for us.
Yeah, really remarkable. You have a lot of amazing products at Native Path. For the ones that you work with every day with your patients, what are some of the ones that if someone's had a long addiction, a long damage to their body from processed foods, what are some of the things at Native Path that are temporary panaceas to get you on a better path?
Yeah, where to start, I say, is start with protein, right? And starting with protein is very effective because it's satiating. We actually burn calories when we consume protein, and it makes it less likely that we're going to crave carbohydrates, right? And we have to keep in mind, we live in a world that has been bombarding us with refined carbohydrates that messes up our blood sugar in our guts and inflames our body. So I say start with protein, and one of the best products you can ever start with to do that is collagen. Collagen is the most abundant protein in your body. It's what makes up the structure of your body. Like when we look at each other, we're just looking at collagen. Our hair, our skin, our nails, even our bones, our gut lining, our arteries, our veins, all of that stuff is made up of collagen. But in our modern world, in our modern diets, we're extremely deficient in collagen because it's just not part of our diets. Our ancestors would get plenty of collagen because they would eat nose to tail. They would take bones and tendons and ligaments and make broths out of that. But we do not get enough in our modern culture. And we produce collagen on our own, but after the age of 20, that begins to decline. And after the age of 50, that really begins to decline. So I've seen it over and over again. Supplementing with collagen is one of the easiest things that you can do, that when you take it consistently, for 8 weeks, many of the other health issues that we've been chasing the symptoms around, they start to go away, or it becomes easier to address because you cover such a big ground with collagen.
Yeah, my whole family, even my beautiful and young mom are using it now, and they just brag about it. They see a difference 6, 7, 8 weeks, and you're like, oh my God, I feel better. I'm less sore. I don't crave carbs. It's an amazing thing. Dr. Chad, you put us all on a much better path for health. It's great to have you on today. Folks, here's this very special offer you get. You can get a special bundle deal at a fraction of the retail price plus free shipping right now if you go to getnativepath.com/justnews. With over 4 million jars of that collagen sold, thousands of 5-star reviews, and 365-day money-back guarantee. This is your moment to take control of your aging before symptoms get worse and get them out of control. Don't let that happen. Go to getnativepath.com/justnews. Join me in getting one of these great products. We'll be right back right after these breaks.
Welcome back, everybody. Our very own border correspondent, Ben Berkwam, is embedded there in Los Angeles in these riots. Ben Berkwam, thank you so much for being here. He's in Chicago, another city where this is breaking out. Ben, it seems like some nice folks behind you, but I gotta say, the original intent of these protests, a lot of Hispanics, and it seems like they're getting edged out by pro-Palestinian people.
Yeah, in fact, we're out here. So we went on an ICE operation this morning in Indianapolis. They're not stopping, but first off, ICE is not stopping. They're continuing. If anything, the resolve is getting stronger. But these protests, you see here in Chicago, we just came up here. This one just started. They're heading down State Street right now, and it's led by the pro-Hamas contingent. So it's this whole idea of intersectionality that everything is all combined. It's LGBT, it's climate justice, now it's illegals, it's everything except for the rule of law, actual justice, following our Constitution, the things that actually matter for our country. But I got to tell you, Amanda, it really does today have a little of they-them energy, I got to say.
Oh, great.
It's not that great.
Yeah.
Stir the pot with a little more.
We'll have to watch what happens tonight. Ben, for people who are just everyday Chicagoans, just trying to go about do their business, have you had a chance to talk to any just real middle Americans and what they think of these protests?
Yeah, I was walking down the street and this couple was walking by me. By the way, we're just going by the iconic Chicago Theater. I don't know if you guys can see it there. That's right here. We're going to stand here for a minute, wait for these crazies to catch up. Let's get out of the way of the cops. Mark, come over here. Sorry. Thank you, Mark. By the way, shout out to my camera guy, Mark, right now. Yes, speaking of locals, they're fed up with it. So you have some people that love this. In fact, Jesse Jackson had a big rally out today with his Rainbow Push Coalition, talking about how the black community needs to support the illegals. It was a dual effort. They wanted to protest Target for ending DEI, but then they also wanted to say how they support illegals. And I actually had a chance to ask a question. I said, I understand you guys promoting DEI, you want free stuff, but how is the black community supporting illegal aliens when they disproportionately take the black jobs? And their answer was no comment. So, the only people that seem to be out here are the communists and people that are trying to make money off of this.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, Ben, so I know that you are hearing what's happening, what's being organized there on the ground. What's your forecast for this weekend? Is it going to get bad?
Yes. It's going to be bad. These guys are led by a bunch of violent communists. It's a Maoist revolution. There's actually communist flags in here. A lot of just about every flag is made by a group of people. Very few custom flags or signs. But this is all communism. It's all violent anarchy. They want to overthrow the government. So that's the intent of this. No doubt it's going to be violent. I pray it's not, and I pray President Trump lays the hammer down and squelches it. There we go, nice communist sign there for you guys.
Yeah. You mentioned intersectionality. We were talking to Rabbi Yaakov just a little bit ago. This is sort of like the supercell. All of the far left, extreme, intolerant groups all coming together. But it doesn't feel like the summer of 2020. It seems like America is really past this, and that the response to it has tamped it down already. Give us your thoughts about how this is a little bit different from 2020.
Yeah, let me just show you over here. I mean, you look at the crowd of people on the sidewalks. They're just, you got a few people filming it, but most people are just kind of like, whatever.
Yeah,
and it really annoys most of the people because it's during rush hour. So you're shutting down some of the major thoroughfares in Chicago during rush hour. I don't know who thought this was a good idea. It's the same thing we saw in LA when they're burning down and looting the stores and It's just pissing off the locals.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a viral video from New York of the black woman just trying to get to work, and this pretentious white liberal guy is just mocking her. It's unbelievable. I don't
Stay
think
safe
they
out
have.
there, Ben.
Yeah, thank you
Stay
so
safe
much,
out there,
Ben.
buddy.
Please stay safe. I hope you're wearing Kevlar. All right, everybody, that's all the time we have for tonight. But remember to tune into Rav on Saturday for our